Well, wow, cool. It worked. I was worried because I had to refresh the chat that it wouldn't have appeared, but lo, it is there, and it works excellent. Um, yeah. Right. Let's get this show on the road, shall we? I'm going to click the record button. I don't want to hit the wrong key again. I don't want to. I don't want to go back to the dark times. I can't record the stream. Okay. I'll have to get someone to email me the VOD. Right, okay, well, that's a problem for a later time. I suspect I know what that is all about. I had to mess with an encoder to actually get the stream live, so I guess that's what that problem is for. So, anyway. Yeah, that's annoying, but oh well. I'll message one of the admin. Okay, so standard disclaimers apply. It did, thank you. Standard disclaimers apply. I am disabled. I might twitch. I might experience muscle spasms. I might stutter and I might slur my speech. I am truly sorry, again, as ever, if it upsets you. Feel free to look away. I'll try and indicate when I'm done. Hasn't happened yet, but you never know. I might also struggle with multiple trains of thought, so if I get distracted, I apologize. I'm trying to compartmentalize better, so if someone in chat says something, I'll comment that I've seen it, finish my current train of thought, and then move on to that. I know as the stream goes on, hitting around the hour and a half mark, my ability to do that does wane slightly, so I guess we'll see how that goes. And also, as I mentioned last time, I'm not sorry for my disability. I don't like making other people feel uncomfortable, because it's not something I can warn people about particularly. And I know that someone has seen it when I was streaming on my own channel, and it made them uncomfortable. So that's what I'm apologizing for. I'm not sorry that I'm disabled. It's who I am. It's part of who I am. Always will be. So there's that. And as I mentioned last time, because I'm not obviously able to take on guest players from other streams on this channel, which you should check out all of the other streams on this channel. I will be trying to do kind of crossover stuff with them in my own way. So in this instance, there's an Mage the Awakening game going on, Occultist Anonymous, where yeet into space is a common threat. So I'll be working that in somehow, probably today, if not today, next time. I just don't like making people upset or worried. It does, because it's quite visible most of the time when it does flare up, and it does upset people and worry them. So yeah, just listen to the audio. Indeed, I know a lot of people do anyway. So as a general recap of the stream, this is behind the screen. At the minute, focusing on Scion, but if you want to ask any other game questions about the games, feel free to do so. I'm happy to talk general GM tips. I'm trying to do the thing where to combat the this is what you should do mindset with this is how I do it, this is why I do it, see if it works for you, by writing a chronicle, talking about why I'm doing certain things, how I approach certain ideas, taking on suggestions from the chat and the Onyx Path Twitch community. If you're watching this on YouTube, oh boy, am I sorry, this has probably gone up late again. My problem is that Onyx Path subs get a week's exclusivity for the VOD on Twitch. That's the word I was looking for. Which means I have a week to forget that I have a recording to upload to YouTube. And then I forget, and then it comes to the day before the stream, and I kind of sit there and I'm like, oh yeah, right, I have that video to upload. Especially with situations like this where I can't record the video because Streamlabs OBS hates me and I rolled a botch. Do I currently have a game? Some may watch me do this. I do not currently have a game. That is something I could think about after I finish writing this chronicle, to see if I can get people together at this time period to play through a game. I know obviously for American viewers it's what, 9 EDT, so 8 EST and so on and so forth, backwards to ungodly hours of the morning. Such a lovely map. Map of Thedas. Heck yeah, it is. The only game that I've been in on this channel. Yeah, they're always VODs, exactly. True. It's something I can think about. I was originally asked about this, and I love doing this kind of thing. So we'll see how it goes. Even if it's just a playthrough this what I've written kind of thing. Couple of things to note before we get started, and I'll point them out at the end of the game. Currently got the Deviant and Renegades Kickstarter going on. It's out there, but it's really cool. It's Chronicles of Darkness. Play as someone who's been experimented upon. If you bear with me, I'll try and find the copy that was distributed. I immediately opened the wrong internet window. I'm, professional at this. I'm not, that's a lie. Where did that copy go? You can see the cursor, but you can't see the window it's in. Oh, yeah. Is it in this email? In Deviant the Renegades, players take on the characters of the Remade, human beings who have been transformed into something else through the action of human actors. No millennia-old curse, moon spirit's favour, or supernatural watchtower changed the Remade into what they are. Their state is the result of chanted spells, long surgeries, experimental treatments, bizarre accidents, or alchemical poisons. Their creators, progenitors, have human faces. They are people whose soul lurks in the shadows of the world and wanted power for themselves. Many Remade, devoted, still serve the conspiracies that changed them. The player characters are renegades, remade to have escaped the clutches of their creators. For now. That has a few days remaining on it, so I would highly caution you to get in on that now, if you want to. I believe the Silicon Path, one of our bots, will drop a link for it periodically. I don't currently know the custom command to drop that link for you. If you are interested in it, there was a character creation stream last weekend on Saturday. Yes, Saturday, which I took part in, as did a couple of other people from the streaming community on this channel, and the main developer of the game ran us through the character creation process. I made a Negabard. I didn't set out to do so, but somehow ended up doing a bard who puppets people and inflicts them with their fear and stuff. That was a very last minute thing, and I was glad that I had the time to do it because it was a heck of a blast. It was a lot of good fun. And if you're interested in kind of seeing how some of the mechanics in Deviant work, it's 2 hours long. It's in the video section on the Twitch channel. Definitely check it out. Obviously on YouTube, depending on when you watch this, it may or may not be there still. I don't know what the plans are for archiving that video. But that's going up. That's currently still going on, I believe, and I'll mention it again later. That would have been the gameplay that I believe happened on Sunday. I wasn't involved in that, but it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, because it's Character Creation October. Character Creation stream happened, and then I believe someone mentioned the game is happening on Sunday. There is also a character creation this Saturday for, I want to say Trinity. I have the pre-roll. I can 100% tell you. Character creation October, Trinity Continuum on Saturday at 4 p.m. EDT. I think that's really all I have to say to start this off. So, thank you all for being here early in the morning if you're an American. For me, it's 25 past 2, so it's slightly more of a sociable hour. I don't think it's open invite, sorry. Obviously, I'm a showrunner on here, so I get to see all the behind the scenes, some of the behind the scenes stuff anyway. So, yes, slightly more sociable hour. Let's get this started. So this is hi from the UK. This is obviously behind the screen, Zion focused. Currently in the process of writing a sort of an introductory chronicle. It'll go up on StoryPath Nexus for people to use, aimed at introducing players to the mechanics and the world of Zion. That's world with a capital W, because it's the main setting of the game. I do also move my microphone a lot when I talk. I'm sorry, it gives me something to do with my hands. I talk with my hands a fair amount. So the first stream, which I think is just a good grounding for anyone who wants general GM tips, was 2 hours of me just talking about GM tips. It's up on my YouTube channel, Comrade Bubbles. I'm also Comrade Bubbles in the chat, hence why it's under the camera. Streams 2 and 3 were character creation. Now, I had some thoughts about this. It seemed to go quite well. Certainly everyone in the chat seemed to enjoy themselves. So it took us 2 streams to create 1 character. Now, until I hear otherwise from the powers that be, I have no reason to suspect that if we were to go through the character creation process for any subsequent Chronicles, I would not be able to do all 6 characters on stream. Obviously, it depends on chat interest, because that's just going to be like 3 months of character creation as we go through 1 character at a time. I'm happy with the approach I took this time. I made 5 characters myself, and then we went through 1 on stream. Obviously, when you're doing it on stream, it takes a lot longer than it ordinarily would in person, because I have to kind of answer questions, walk through my ideas, explain things as we go. And that's fine. I don't mind doing that. This is a community-driven exercise, giving back to the community. So if you want to see that for 12 weeks, sure, I can do that for, I guess when I do the hero level stuff. It shouldn't take 12 weeks, actually, because the characters are already mostly made. I can actually link to my YouTube channel, because I'm a mod. Tell you what, I'll link you to the playlist with the Scion. Waiting on the dragons yourself to see that. I'll link you to my playlist with the Scion content, and then you can navigate around from there. There we go. Hopefully I don't get bopped. We should be fine. So that's the link to this playlist on my YouTube channel. As I say, there's a week exclusivity for subs on Twitch. So if you want to watch it, if you can't watch it today for whatever reason, no worries. But you want to watch it before it goes up on YouTube, that's how you do it. Drop a sub. You get sweet emotes. So what's not to like? And yeah, so those all the characters are already made to origin level. So it should theoretically be a lot quicker to just convert them to hero. There is some reworking that would need to be done, I believe, based on how the 2 different how origin and hero kind of mesh. But that's something that I'll probably do it like a poll on in the stream, in the chat closer to the time. But we made 1 character. We made Ash, non-binary scion of Inari, and then last time I streamed, we did birthright creation for Ash. Which I realise now is on Ash's character sheet and not in my show notes. So that's incredible. That didn't take the whole session, however. I did manage to get started talking about how I write Chronicles, which is the segue for today, after 20 minutes. So, bit of backstory for those who weren't here last week, because obviously new people are going to be joining all the time. Good. Should always be excited. Passion drives hobbies. So I run role-playing game events for a board game cafe. A lot of them are taster sessions, because if it's not D&D, most people probably haven't heard of it. Question mark, no name? So I have a lot of experience introducing people to various game systems. So I have a... you might... I don't know if you can do it as a non-streamer, but there should be a readability option in chat settings if you're confused about that kind of thing. And general, because accessibility is important to me, if you are watching this on Twitch and you can't make out names, there should be a readability setting. Anyway, so I have this framework that I usually follow in terms of getting people to grips with a game that they haven't played before. And that's the framework that I'm going to be following for this Rude Awakening, this chronicle, this Scion Origin Chronicle. Last time I mentioned that you shouldn't have more than 3 scenes in mind. I'm going to break that guideline for this just because it allows me to be more flexible in terms of content written. I might end up with just 3 overall scenes, but who knows? We'll see. But essentially, my best practice advice is have a low stakes scene where the players can interact with each other, get to grips with a character, learn the basics of the dice rolling mechanic. Certainly in games like Scion, where everything's a bit more abstract, a bit more fluid and freeform than other games. So Scion, as long as you can persuade your story guide that this dice pool that you have decided applies to the role can work, it works. So as an example, so I don't give you the wrong names, in other role-playing games, dexterity and stealth would be your go-to stealth roll, right? Well, maybe your dexterity is not terribly high. Maybe you want to use your cunning to work out patrol routes. So you add your cunning to your subterfuge. Or if you're relying on less moving quietly, but more reading the environment around you and picking an optimal path that way, that could be a cunning and a survival roll. So because it is more of a flexible freeform system that not everyone gels with, admittedly, it's a good idea to have that low stakes, even if you fail, nothing truly bad will happen moment. In Scion, unlike other games, there is the momentum pool, which helps with failure and drives the story forwards. Constellations, which can add to the momentum pool. But you generally fail forwards in Scion, which is, good. It's a good game design approach to have. Then you have a freedom scene where the players are free to explore, intelligent and cunning could work, but that is 2 attributes rolled together. While there's nothing against that, it's usually I'd say a better idea to have attribute and skill, personally, in the vast majority of cases. But you could use intelligence in place of cunning to learn guard routes and recall them. That works equally well if you're a smarter character than a more cunning character. Or composure and subterfuge if you're hiding in a crowd, that kind of thing. No worries, Black Plague, no worries. I have the rulebook, that's why I checked. Have a freedom scene where players are free to embrace the freeform nature of the game. If I say free one more time, get their heads around what they can do, what they can't do. But I'm usually more of a you can do this, but or this is the consequence because approach, and then wrap it all up with an action scene. A good for every free you would be dead. If it free and you would 100% be dead. And then an action scene, because most people like a good punch up at the end of a role playing session. To round it off, to give you that memory of having a good time. It's actually just a psychological trick, really. If you give them a good time at the end of a session, they'll come back for another session. But still, it's good. It's good. It works as kind of the capstone experience of everything that's come before. So the low stakes scene introduces the dice rolling mechanics. The freedom scene introduces the improvisational nature of role playing. I'm not buying, by the way. Possibly combined with some more dice rolling to build on that, to solidify that knowledge, and then an action scene kind of ties it all together. In Scion, because they have the 3 scenes, 3 types of scenes: action, adventure, intrigue, and I can't remember the third one. It's a bit more flexible. There's a bit more flexibility baked into that. The first 2 Actually, I might kind of need that. So I'm not making reference to things I haven't fully explained. Procedural. There we go. Action, adventure, procedural, and intrigue. I think. Yes, intrigue. So intrigue's the social, procedural's the more clue finding, and action adventure is what it sounds like. The Chronicle's gonna have a combination of all three, probably multiples of one or two, as like a very surface level thing. I mean, there are rules for chases and stuff that might come into it, might not. If I take if I need to pause to check the book, I'll let you know I'm going to do that. I really should have put bookmarks in it for this. Never mind. So that's where we are. That's how I approach writing introductory stuff. It's largely how I approach stuff anyway, because it gives you that nice kind of rhythmic gameplay of crescendo down into relatively low stakes, but then depending on how you write it, how you craft it, sure, you've got the nice sine wave, but you can do the sine wave going up rather than going across in a level horizontal progression. Sometimes when writing your own stuff, it might make more sense to start with an action scene to grab everyone's attention. Certainly I've done that with games. It depends largely on the theme of the game that you're trying to do, as you can see. The theme I'm dealing with is sudden awareness, changing the status quo in Revelations. That's not the right window. And dealing with mood of confusion versus understanding. So to me, that doesn't. I don't think a combat scene is going to be an action scene. Sorry, it's going to be the right fit for that. Also, just occurred to me, if there are any video or audio problems, please do tell me. I need to just make a note to ask for the VOD afterwards. So, as you can probably tell, I'm working in Google Docs because it's Microsoft Word is just really hard to capture. So, when writing anything, before sitting down, hopefully you've picked your game. Hopefully you've discussed with your players could I perhaps make the font a little bigger? I certainly can. You know what? I'll just zoom in. Is that any better? Again, accessibility is very important. When you need to change I don't know if I could change the background in Google Docs actually. I know that some people prefer like cream. I can't change chat font as far as I know. I know that some people with reading disabilities prefer cream or just the green or pink or various other colors. So this is unfortunately the best I can do. But I can make the text bigger certainly if you need it again. Anyway, so you've got your game line. In this instance, Scion. If you Black Plague. If you are intending to do this with players, as in you're not going to be running pre-written content, which obviously this is going to be, but if you're intending to run it with players, I would highly recommend either a session 0 where you kind of all talk about expectations for the game, what you'd like to see through the game. In Onyx Path games, that's slightly less important because of character choices, being able to tell you that. So aspirations, deeds, whatever else they're called in the relevant game lines. They will tell you as the story guide, storyteller, whatever, what the players want. But that's session 0 to really hammer out what people are, to not hammer out, but to get everyone on the same playing field in terms of expectation is very important. It's also a good place to discuss consent and what people are happy and not happy to have in a game, or to kind of be like, we're happy to explore this, but past a certain point, we kind of need to just fade to black. Obviously, that's kind of a hot topic right now in the tabletop gaming industry. I don't think it should be, but it is. So it's something to bear in mind. Make sure that everyone's happy with what you're planning on trying to explore. Less applicable in Scion, but certainly in some Chronicles of Darkness games, because they do deal with heavy themes. Something to bear in mind. So, you got your game, you've got your expectations and your players, so you're sitting down to write stuff. This won't be... So, I've bought pre-written material before, I've got some of it. It won't be identical to that, because that is not how I approach writing games. It's very much scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, etc., etc. in exhaustive detail. Players go here, they do this, they move on. I'm going to try and keep pretty vague scene outlines. So something I used to do was write my scene outlines down. I very rarely do that now, but sometimes I used to. But that's what I'm going to be formalizing here for everyone's benefit. But pick your preferred method of organizing your thoughts. Clearly, this is a Google Doc. So if you're going to use this kind of thing, specifically if you're using Google Docs, make use of this option up here. Make headings, please, for the love of anything you hold dear, use headings. It helps with formatting, it helps with navigation, and it helps with organization. Microsoft Word, you could do something similar. If you use the text, if you highlight the text that you want to use as a heading, you go to the Home tab on the ribbon, and then Styles, there'll be a heading style in there that you can edit or make suitable. It helps with having a universal style throughout the document, and also I will show you a wonderful feature of headings just by using this. Obviously, depending on what you're using, the actual wording will change, but Google Docs, it's over here. You click the tab and it takes you to the... Essentially, it's a bookmarked PDF without being a bookmarked PDF. Actually, if you're using Microsoft Word to do this, if you use the headings correctly, you can then save it as a bookmarked PDF. Bit of knowledge for you about how to create your own bookmarked PDFs in Word. So that's all they do. You can remove them if you want to, but... just clicking on the thing clicking on the heading or the subheading will take you to the relevant place in the document. Something I didn't used to do, and boy howdy does it save time. So best practice right there, use headings correctly and wisely. So I think that's my show notes covered from what I wanted to talk about before getting actually into it. It is. Okay, so chronicle outline. As I've said before, I want to start with some... I need to change the text style. Introductory scenes. Normal text. And the purpose of these scenes is to introduce players to characters, to introduce core mechanics. This is unfortunately the downside of this kind of content creation stream. I'm going to be typing a lot. I'll try to talk out what I'm typing just so that it's not dead air. Also because I struggle to say things that I'm not writing at the same time, or to not write what I'm saying. There we go. I think that makes sense. To introduce core mechanics and to introduce the world. With things like this, here we go. You can use tab. You can't use tab in Google Docs. In Word, if you use tab, it inserts 3 spaces, or there's usually a symbol like this that adds an indent. Sometimes this will happen, or it'll indent the whole text. It's annoying. I haven't quite figured out how to get around it yet, so for now, I'll just leave it as is and then figure it out for next time and tell you how I did it. So that's the purpose of the introductory scenes. Oh, there's a tab working. Weird. So then, as a kind of a sub point to this, it'll be 1 scene per player. Possibly one action scene. Just to kind of highlight the fact that action does occur. That's not how you spell players. Players whose characters are not present act as story guide characters in the current scene. So what this means is that each introductory scene will need a framing device and a list of SGCs. SGC is story guide character. You're probably more familiar with NPC, non-player character, or as I'm desperately trying to start people thinking about it as a non-party character, because the GM, the story guide, the storyteller, the DM, the keeper, master of ceremonies, whatever, they're a player too. Please remember that. It bugs me no end that they're relegated to non-player status. So each introductory scene will need a framing device and a list of SGCs. With motivations and concepts, so that those will just be kind of maybe one or two word things that give the player who's taking control of that character an idea about how that character would act. And I'm not saying that it'll be one for one. Maybe there'll just be a one-on-one scene between the story guide and a character. That would certainly work with one of the characters I've got. At what point do you introduce player characters to each other? That'll be the second part of the introductory framework. So, the I guess the freedom aspect of this area, of this process. So that's introductory scenes sorted. Now, in some games, there is a difficulty getting player characters together in one place without it seeming contrived. The obvious answer, the trope, is you meet in a tavern. In Scion, you have a great fallback option. So that's why I don't like NPC. Honestly, when it goes, don't tell them. I'd like to know why you look at them like background tools. I don't like the title NPC. As someone who is a technically professional GM, I don't use a screen, which is why I love the name of the show, because. But I don't use a storyteller screen or a GM screen or whatever you want to call it. I don't like the barrier it creates at the table. I will roll everything out in the open if I need to. And I don't like the fact that it's just it's a semantics and psychological thing, but calling them non-player characters to me minimizes my role at the table. It just makes me think of myself more as a judge and an adjudicator. I have no problem with non-party characters. They're great. Supporting cast is everything. A game needs a supporting cast to work. Otherwise, it's just five idiots in the void. Based on experience as a player and a GM, and I don't mind separating between player and GM, story guide, storyteller, whatever. For specific discussions, as in like I play this game, but I run this game. It's just the title I don't like. It's just me. Maybe it's just me. If it works for you, it works for you. I'm not telling you you're wrong. This is my platform. It is entirely unofficial. Onyx Path do not, I don't represent Onyx Path in any way. I'm just on my soapbox right now, and you're kind of listening, you poor people. So, you meet in a tavern. Contrived player entrances. Scion, as I said, and I'm also perfectly willing to be challenged on any of my opinions. I like to think I'm vaguely aware of my cognitive biases. I'm happy to have a healthy and open discussion about something, so feel free to ask. Obviously, try to keep it to role-playing matters. That's the purpose of the stream. Scion has the great fallback of Fate. So I mentioned... Yes, Navarre, you hit 100% officially. How do I organise time for players whose characters are not currently in the scene? Well, this is something I'll probably have to include in a sidebar or introduction to the Chronicle. It's a lot of just feel for the game. What I would probably do is just recommend keeping an eye on the time and having a scene last no longer than 5 to 10 minutes. Because with 6 players, that's an hour max-ish. Obviously, there'll be a bit of overrun. And this also depends entirely on how comfortable players are with, I guess, improvisation without having any other party members to take the slack for them. This is something I've started trialing with my experience group, and it went quite well. It's obviously not traditional, so I might say for bands who are less confident in this kind of thing, just skip the introductory scene and go straight to like scene 2. Scientists might be work or even studying trains the problem maybe as far as. Yeah, exactly. So in that case, the scene would be a scientist in the lab and talking about stuff. When I get to doing the introductory scenes, there will be a seed in each one for something to happen, or to use to drive the player's deeds, in this case forwards. But yes, as Black Plague says, find something they value and have them go after them in that small vignette. Fate. So one of the core conceits of Scion is that everything is true. All of the gods, all of the myths, they exist. The gods aren't present in the world, because if they are too present in the world, they will get locked into fate with a capital F. Fate is a driving force in Scion's setting. As Scions grow in legend, as they develop as characters and you know, take on their own mantles and rise to divinity, mortal characters around them will be fate-bound to them. They take on archetypal roles of myths and legends. So it's like a nemesis and a lover, whether unrequited or not. That kind of thing. Fate has precedence in Scion. It has power and it has weight to it. So I would say be not too heavy-handed with it, because then it'll just be contrived. But every now and then, if you need the players together, just have some seeming happenstance bring them all together. So in this instance, quote-unquote, scene 2 will be... I'm going to put it... So a bit of fun fact for you. UK English uses single quotation marks. US English uses double quotation marks. It's just the way the languages have worked out. So the band meet. And the purpose of the scene is to introduce PCs to each other. That's really all it is. You get them together, you put them in one place. You have an inciting incident. To provide impetus for the story. Also, the Silicon Paths post about Storypath Nexus, as I said, this will go up on there after it is finished. I have no idea when that will be. It will be as a pay what you want model, because yes, I'm taking idea from the chat. and that will be accredited properly with thanks to the Onyx Path Twitch community, because it's going to get to the point where I can't write down everyone's name. Obviously, if I'm making a bit of money from it, then it helps me continue to do stuff like this, which hopefully is mildly entertaining, or at least helpful. So the band meet. So that's to introduce species to each other, have an inciting incident to provide impetus for the story. In this instance, the whole point of this is to start the revelation, hint at the divine nature of the party. Haven't quite nailed down how that will happen yet, and that's partly why I'm doing this on stream. So I can take your opinions, factor them in, pass them through my own brain, and we make something better than I could come up with by myself. A good example of this was Ash. Ash's character was something that ended up something completely different to how I imagined them when I had the idea, to the point where they changed concept entirely. Collaborative creation is a hell of a cool tool. Inciting incident to provide impetus, start the revelation, hint at the divine nature of the party, and the connection to the world, capital W. Oh, if you want to get rid of the indent, just hit backspace. I know what I want the finale to be, but I think it's worth having a procedural scene between this inciting incident and the finale. This chronicle, I guess, story would be a better way of phrasing it. I don't envision it as being the character's entire origin tier of play. Sure thing. I expect it to be 4, maybe 5 sessions, if that, and just function as a way of introducing players to the game. And then kind of they go away, a few more sessions of origin play, maybe spend some experience to develop the characters a little bit more, and then go on to hero. So I'm not going to be trying to cover the full 0 to hero. Good morning, Plastic Age Plays. I had some problems with my encoder, so if you could arrange someone to send me the VOD, that would be mighty appreciated. I could probably edit it down myself to get rid of the waffle at the beginning if needed. And the pre-roll and stuff. But if you could do that, that'd be extremely appreciated. I think I know what the problem is. It's just OBS being a pain. Yay for technology. So thank you. Also heard you died in Deviant, or may have died in Deviant. This was the Puddle of Flesh? Anyway, so the band meet. I'm going to keep putting these quote marks because they're not a proper band. Actually, they might be after this. Well, I'll do it sans quotes. The band investigate. Introduce procedural scenes. To introduce, that is the purpose of the scene. To introduce procedural scenes. To further develop. This is all obviously extremely dry mechanical backend stuff that unfortunately is needed for writing of anything, really. This is also not my typical process. Usually I just write. But that's not good content, and that is not good GM tips. Again, I want it to be this is what you do, this is why I do it, this is how it looks in practice, rather than just extremely theoretical. To further develop understandings of core gameplay mechanics. Actually, this is possibly introduce momentum in the scene. So something that you can always do when you're trying to introduce players to something new is simplify the game a lot. So this is a good point to introduce the momentum mechanic to players, so they get the basics down, they get the dice rolling down, possibly how their knacks work if you want to do that. I guess we could put that here to introduce knacks. Capital K. So knacks are minor supernatural abilities given to inherited through their divine relation. So you know what? I forgot to check something in OBS. Oh, we're all good. We're all good. So I was saying, Ash, for example, Ash is, as I said, a scion of Inari. One of Inari's callings is healer. So it's kind of it's a divine archetype in a way. And so Ash has access to knacks from the healer calling, etc., etc. Really. So knacks are minor supernatural effects at origin level. At heroic, and I can only assume demigod and god, they get more and more overt and world shattering. But I think it's a logical progression to introduce knacks after. As the second thing, some of them, I don't think any of them I chose do, but some of them might require momentum expenditure. Obviously, if they do, or if you're running through this story without the pre-gens and you have characters for whatever reason that require momentum expenditure, obviously feel free to introduce the momentum pool before this. But I feel like a scene that is all about investigation, that could have failure, that could have failing forwards, which, if you can't think of any other result of failure, momentum is the recommended one anyway. So it seems to fit nicely in here to introduce the momentum pool and the mechanic. So that's that. And then kind of further sub-points of the scene, or this would probably be one or two scenes, because you've got a scene where they find clues, hopefully, and a scene where they follow up on the clues with research. Okay. I guess this would be to address both sides of investigation. Metanol. Nice. Mental and social. And to hint at, I guess, supernatural involvement is the easiest way of putting it. I think I mentioned before, but my plan is to create an entirely new pantheon for this. One, because I like having that ownership. And two, just to show everyone how easy it is to create a pantheon. I probably won't be in as exhaustive detail as Hero has them. It's like 200, 300 word entries for each deity. But I'd like to at least show you how to create one or two with associated titans and callings and purviews and stuff. I probably won't make my own purviews or callings. There's no point in reinventing the wheel unless I think of something that would be useful to include. But that is by the by. So that's the sub point of the band investigate. That's one scene per player. This is one scene. This is just so I know roughly how much I'm writing. No. Ah! Where's my indent gone? The organization. 1/2 scenes. Also, be grateful, everyone, that I realized I could capture Google Docs. I used to do all of this in Notepad when I was doing it over on my stream. And boy howdy does Notepad have very few formatting options. You know what? That should be a hyphen, because it's a range of numbers. 1 to 2 scenes. And then just finale with an exclamation mark. Why not? To introduce formal action adventure scenes. That should be capitalized. What am I doing? This would be an intrigue scene. I'm just trying to figure out where to put it. I guess here. There we go. You're laughing at Notepad. Hey, Notepad did its job for far longer than I would care to admit. If you want to watch those dark days, again, it's on my YouTube channel. Finale to introduce formal action adventure scenes. This will be one scene. To, I guess, demonstrate divine ability, ? And then I have an epilogue of visitations. And then as a subpoint of this, possibly seed these throughout / have a generic list of ideas or suggested visitations. So visitation would be when the divine parent makes themselves known to their child or offspring, or in the case of Ash, creation. While it would tie everything up neatly to have a series of visitation scenes, one after the other, bang, 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 to me that just feels like lazy storytelling. That's personal preference. So what I would probably end up doing is have a list of possible scenes based on what is created for each scene. And they don't have to be long scenes, just a conversation, but so for instance, one of the characters is child of Don, the Tuatha Danann kind of god of death in a way. So if they encounter someone who's died, perhaps that will be their visitation scene. And that could easily happen in the band meet section. So we have an outline. Here we go. This is our outline. Introductory scenes. This is another heading. Again, keep your headings. They're very important, so they just scroll through for me. Okay, so in no particular order, let's do this in alphabetical order because it makes my eyes happy. Ash. That would be actually heading 2. I believe I've mentioned these names on stream before. Hubai. Isabel King. So these are all the pre-gens. Obviously, if you're using your own characters, then hopefully these things will be vague enough that they'll fit. Liam McMahon. It probably won't surprise you to learn that's the child of Don. Martina Vasquez. And Michael Kettering. So those are our 6. Yes, I think it's alphabetical order, right? H-I-L. Yep. So these are our 6 6-player characters that we'll be taking on an epic journey through of discovery and self-realization. Let's just move that out of the way so I can still see the chat. I keep clicking on the wrong darn window. Okay, so let's also arrange my notes for ease. Oops. I also have just realized that in my notes it says nowhere who their divine parent is. That is mildly annoying, actually. Okay. Created of Inari. Chosen of Chang'e. At least I believe it's pronounced Chang'e. I think that's a sign of Heru. I believe he was a sign of Don. Right, it's getting to the point where I can't do this from memory. I know that I think there's only 2 scions. I think Michael's an incarnation. I'll have to edit this afterwards. There's no point wasting everyone's time now. Incarnation of Boulder. I think Martina was a chosen of Apollo. You got that thing where you really want to do something, but you want to be correct in what you're saying. So you don't want to you know, tell people falsehoods. Chosen of Apollo, yeah. Cool. Sorry, I'm just updating my notes so that I have easy reference material. Right, so Ash. Introductory scene for Ash. I have an idea for this already, but we'll see what everyone thinks. So, Ash's concept is that of a compassionate peacemaker. They are created of Inari. With no parents, no birth certificate, and no sure identity, Ash grew up lost in the foster care system, represented by their origin path of child of the system. Learning how to take a beating and the best way to avoid notice, they channeled their natural talents into taking on leadership roles, working within the system to send support to those who needed it, represented by their role path of... That role? Was it role path? I can't remember. 1 second. You know what? I've got the PDF open. That's just going to be way quick for me to reference. I always get them confused in my head between the... I know it's origin path, and then there are 2 other kinds of path. That's not what I wanted. Path, there we go. Origin, role, and society. Okay, sometimes I get role and society mixed up. So their role path is that of Shield of the Lost. They help people who need it. And in aiding the police in running community outreach programs to help disadvantaged youth and keep them off the streets, represented by their society path of soul of the community. To me, the most obvious, immediate, and probably socially gratifying scene would be leaning into the soul of the community and have a scene with Ash doing a community outreach program, maybe with some disadvantaged youth, maybe doing a talk to students about how best they can help, that kind of thing. So what I will probably do for this, to save on time and everyone's interest, is I will just do notes for the scenes now. Off stream type them up to more formal stuff. Technical term right there. And then in the recap, kind of cover or just show what I did, show how I turn my note, what I turn my notes into. I also realized that I was talking about ways of planning stuff and completely stopped at 1. Another tool that is quite useful is any Kanban style system. I use Trello for my campaign prep. It's just really good for having quick lists of things and notes and moving things around when story beats are completed. Anyway, so Community outreach. Possible SGCs include. Let's have. Well, first of all, what are people thinking? Are we thinking Ash is out on the streets talking to disadvantaged youth? Probably have some support there from the police. Or be in a college or university giving a talk, like post-talk conversation, meet and greet kind of situation. Or alternatively, I guess could be a function, a fundraiser event. That's the word I was looking for a community center or something. Ooh, I do kind of like that one. Because that could lead into the inciting incident. I like that one. Community fundraiser. So, possible story guide characters would include the organizer / organizational committee. We use square brackets for their motivations and concepts. So, concept is charitable, but motivation will be charitable. Fundraiser is a nice idea considering the Kickstarter. That's true. Charitable, honest, well-intentioned, vertical line. So there's maybe like 3 motivations for 3 members of the committee, or you could have someone who has all 3 of those qualities. Charitable, honest, well-intentioned, and then with motivations, obviously, to raise money, to meet people. I will have to divert attention. I won't specify what the attention's being diverted away from. I keep hitting shift for some reason. To give, if someone chooses to be this character, to give them some flexibility with their portrayal of it. Obviously, when you're portraying characters that aren't your own, there's the constant worry that you'll do it wrong, which is legitimate, but at the same time, it's not going to happen that you'll play it wrong, but you'll play your interpretation of that character, which might not gel with the player's interpretation of the character, shall we say. So we've got that. Socialite. So a couple of kind of qualities for them would be, obviously want to be philanthropic. And let's have ambitious, and let's have what would be an interesting mix, an interesting third quality to throw in. I like doing things in 3, also because it means that you can have 3 players playing socialites if you want to. Philanthropic, ambitious, and skeptical, whether that's of someone who is there or of the cause. Obviously, that's up to the player to decide. We are simply providing the seed for the story to grow from. That's one high level way to look at it, I guess. Okay, so then to give money, I would assume if you're running along a campaign for the same players, you get to know the playstyle quite well. Yes, also that. Obviously, this is supposed to be an introductory scene. These are most likely going to be throwaway characters, although I was considering giving a list of names. So that they could come back. Actually, so here's a question for everyone in chat. Ash is very much the focus by which I'm running through this explanation of how I approach campaign writing, chronicle writing, sorry. So rather than going through all of these scenes individually, I could do them off stream. I would appreciate, I don't know, I like talking through how I do stuff for this kind of thing, so I might just keep them on stream, but with these story guide characters, if you want me to, because I've still got an hour or so, 55 minutes, because I'll do, assuming it's okay with Onyx Path's schedule, which it should be. I did start late, so all the technical difficulties, but I could create these people as story guide characters if you want, and run you through that process after finishing Ash's scene outline, if you want me to, or I can save that for when I need an antagonist. It's up to you guys, you folk in chat. Anyway, to give money, to rub shoulders, elbows even. I don't know if that phrase really translates well to other dialects of English, but I guess I should make it easier for people whose first language might not be English. To climb socially. There we go. Rubbing out elbow. It's one of those things. I always think things are well known, and then I'm talking to American friends, and they just have no idea what I'm talking about. So it also obviously depends where you come from. I say things that people from the south of England wouldn't understand. To mingle, yeah. I guess that works as a third one, actually. So thank you. Just to be there with no ulterior motive. I'm going to put socialites, just for plurality's purpose. Security would obviously be there. That's not how you spell that at all. Serious. I am security. Severe, slightly different meaning to serious. And professional. To keep the people safe. To keep the valuables safe. Two very different things. Yeah, to network would also work. I might put to network in a fourth category of story guide character. To keep the people safe, to keep the valuables safe. And to make their name. There we go. Build a reputation, that kind of thing. Oh, right, the group that it would be benefiting. Disadvantaged youth. Okay, so we'll go with hopeful. I knew that was wrong as soon as I typed it. There we go. Hopeful, desperate, and... Oh, I can't put the umlaut in. Diacritical mark, that's the one. Hopeful, desperate, naive. Oh, I could. I just don't know the outcode. Anyway, to network. To make friends. To learn. Also, I've just noticed I wrote possibly. Possible SGCs. Okay, I think... So I've got a couple of ways I could do this. I could have the scene description start with the list of possible characters, and then have just a series of kind of, I guess, bullet points about one of these characters will do something, one of these characters will then do something, one of these characters will also do something, so that there is some loose structure to the scene. I think that's probably the way to handle it, because I don't want it to be a fixed path, shall we say. Yeah, so let's do that. How did I phrase that? Right, so it would then be let's format this properly, shall we? Possible story guide characters. So this is the kind of scene concept. Story guide cat. Even better. Setting, community fundraiser. Fundraising event for community center. There we go. Street market, question mark. See what I think about that when I come back to it. Okay. So then kind of little things that will happen in the scene. I guess events is the easiest way of phrasing it. Let's do this. Just so it's not a block of text. When it comes to formatting, this would probably be bullet pointed as a list anyway. So, and then events, one for each. So we'll have the obvious one would be someone tries to steal something. Someone tries to steal something from Ash, prompting a roll to notice. Before security intervention. So that's your security. Disadvantaged youth, maybe one of the kids comes to Ash with a complaint about one of the other attendees as disadvantaged youth. Perhaps one of the organizers wants to discuss further events. One of the organizers wishes to discuss further events, and one of the socialites let's know more about the center and its offer, and then just put this in the same layout as up here. Wait, can I just? I can. Sweet merciful. Heaven above. Security and then kids. So there we go. That's a rough kind of scene outline. As I say, I'll probably try and include names, and still not feeling that street market idea. Sorry, I just punched the mic. I don't feel like a gallery is the right fit per se, and obviously this is something that will just come with time. The longer that you run games, the longer that you write material for games, the more familiar you'll become with kind of feeling out what is and isn't a good fit for the story that you're trying to tell. So, again, I don't feel like Street Market's the right place to start. But equally, as I said, I don't think a gallery is the right place. Library. Libraries are a good thing to use in situations like this, because they're a natural meeting ground between going on lazy stereotypes, I guess the educated elite, because they're theoretically interested in the books and the learning, and people who can't afford to do anything else because libraries are free. Oh, but also because libraries are chronically underfunded across, at least to my understanding, most of the Western world. So it's a good way of highlighting social decay and the importance of cultural institutions in one location. So you could maybe build on that with other things happening at the event. Again, these are just ideas. If you want anything else to happen, go for it. I'll try and include all of this. You know what? Let's have an introduction heading. I'm saying all of this, and then I don't want to forget it. So, introduction, no text. Each scene presents a suggested location, a handful of suggested SGCs, and some possible events to give direction to the scene. This is something I did on I do on my channel when I write material for the DMs Guild, is I type up my design notes and release that into the wild. Is there any interest in that kind of thing? Like, obviously this is going to go on the Story Path Nexus, and I'm not saying it'll go in the final product, or if it is, it'll be an appendix in the appendices. But is there interest in me typing up my notes about things like why it's set in a library? And would you like that in with the material, or would you like that kept separate? I'm entirely open to ideas. There's something that just occurred to me that some people might be interested in that kind of thing. Anyway, while you have time to think about that, I would do a straw poll because there is a command for that, but might be a cool appendix for the initial release. Okay. Okay, then I'll try and translate my notes afterwards, but libraries as symbols of urban decay and ground of educated elite, and that's more of a stereotype. Disadvantaged youth, not a stereotype. Money and drive to better oneself versus eating something free to do / somewhere free to hang out. And this is definitely something I've experienced. I'm not, thankfully, disadvantaged, but we're not well off, so we will typically go on, my partner and I will typically go on dates to somewhere free. So I know that from one side of this angle. Anyway, so that's that. So I was trying to think what would be the better use of time now. Continue doing another scene or two, or go and make these as story guide characters in case dice rolls are needed. I mean, they might be is the thing. You vote story guide characters? Okay, that's fine by me. So, okay. I'll just copy this list over here. Hopefully that... Yep, I'll just rename this as antagonists / story guide characters. So this is probably something that we'll do. I'm leaning more towards doing all of the scenes on stream now, just because it's content, and I don't know. I just like kind of talking things through with everyone. And talking out your ideas usually gives you better ideas anyway, so it gives me a reason to do that. Like, the more I talk about A Rude Awakening being the name of the story, of the Chronicle, I don't think it is. I think it's the name of this first chapter. If it was like that, I'd role-playing it in my world. Oh, definitely, yeah. That's a huge part of doing it. I mean, even with games, historical games like Call of Cthulhu, I mean, obviously Lovecraft himself was a horrendous racist, and you should not idolize him for that at all, but it does help you deal with themes like that. Again, with the consent of your players. Like cautionary tales. That makes complete sense to me. Right, let's do this properly. Let's do this alphabetically. This shouldn't take the rest of the... Oh, why did I do that? I'm an idiot. There we go. That's where I wanted it. This shouldn't take the rest of the stream, but it might. So I need a quick check of the PDF to grab a template. Archetype qualities drive. Nope, that's the wrong window. But that's certainly one of the things that attracts me to horror role-playing, and just role-playing in the modern world, is dealing with social problems. So this is my template, which I will put a heading above. I'll turn into a heading. Template. SGC name / title. Colon. Archetype. Also colon. Qualities. Drive. So we should make all of them sort of Call of Cthulhu game specific. You probably should not, no. And you definitely shouldn't make them all overweight. Primary, secondary, and desperation. Primary pool, secondary pool. Whoops. Desperation pool. Health, defense, and initiative. Nope. Defense, I hate writing. So I proofread as well, freelance. So my spelling's terrible considering that, and my grammar and my spoken grammar suffers occasionally. I do apologize for that. Okay, so there we go. Sometimes I realize that I don't have the right spelling for the right dialect. Anyway, so here's my template. How best to, so this will probably end up going in an appendix. So this will be in like Appendix A. So I guess it would make sense to have another heading. Introductory scenes. SGCs. And then a subheading of Ash. And then the actual, probably use this as a further subheading. So I need 4 of these anyway. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And we've got disadvantaged youth. And then remove that. And then right, I could just do this. That would be way easier. I am so smart. Sometimes I amaze even myself. And the great thing about doing this is I'll have loads of example stat blocks. Okay, so that's that. And then I can delete this. Set that to heading 3. If I felt that strongly about it, I could probably mess with the line spacings, but this I'm all just going to copy paste into Word eventually anyway, so I don't really need to. I hope it'll translate over well. So, are they the right headings? They just look smaller. So this is what I was explaining earlier. I now have subheadings for my subheadings. So I just click to the right one and it takes me there, which is great. So you'll notice immediately that story guide characters in Scion have have much less information required for them than player characters. Player characters have a sheet full of dots and callings and stuff. Story guide characters have this. And it gets even simpler. It's amazing. That's not going to work. I guess I'll just put it there. Right, so first thing to decide when you're making a story guide character, this is focused around creating antagonists from for your Scions. This is found in page 143 of Origin. If any of you are working along at home, I would show you the PDF, but I'll be flicking between the two documents and it just takes too long, so I'm not going to do that. But Scion Origin has 4 basic archetypes. They're tiered according to, I guess, mortal characters. So that if you wanted to, you could run an entire game of Scion and just use Origin, just use the 4 archetypes, etc. etc. I realized I can't see Twitch chat while this is open. I could just put it here. It's fine. Just check that hasn't broken OBS. We're good. So, as I say, there are 4 archetypes. We've got the Mook, the Professional, the Villain, and the Monster. Monster being, you should probably only have one of those, and that's enough of a fight for most bands solo. Mook is then at the other end of the scale, the minion, one-hit kill. Each should have a drive. Oh, sorry. Qualities. Qualities are the little things that make that antagonist different. Give it a bit of flair, have mechanical benefits. They're roughly analogous to Nax, I want to say. These aren't going to have flares, so I don't need to use that. Where is it? Where is it? It said somewhere. There we go. I'm going to just say Nax. I'm going to say they're analogous to Nax. I can't bother to read the whole thing. But at the end of the chapter, there is this is how you approach designing characters. Primary, so that's what a quality is. Drive is what makes them do what they're doing. Primary pool is their dice pool for things that they're good at. Oh, they do best. Secondary pool is things that they're good at, but not necessarily have as much experience doing. And desperation pool is everything else. Health is how many hits they can take. Unlike player characters, story guide characters built using this system don't have. They can't take injury conditions. They take a number of hits before they're out. An amount of damage. Sorry. So, the inflict damage stunt, for example. Sorry, I just need to blow my nose. The inflict damage stunt, for example, inflicts 1 injury condition to a character. Antagonists can't take injury conditions, so it'll inflict 1 damage. A critical hit, which is 4 successes, allows you to inflict a second, so you deal 2 damage. So that's what health is. Defense is their defense pool. And initiative is how you deal with initiative. Yeah, I guess I can briefly talk about that because it's come up. I also need to add extras. for flares and whatnot. I'm going to include extras, but I'm probably just going to put NA or 1 enhancement 2. Initiative is really cool in Scion, and that it's extremely odd. But the way initiative works is each character has an initiative rating. You roll that. You roll a d10, I believe. You add the initiative. I apologize if that is incorrect. I recently reread the Chronicles of Darkness rulebook, so it's, all very similar. But you generate an initiative slot. It doesn't have to be yours. And then you tell the story guide your initiative slot as a group. So 4 players would have 4 slots. The story guide gets all the slots for their characters. And then you decide who goes in which slot. So if you have a high initiative, but you don't want to act first, you can say someone else goes in your slot. So it's really cool. It's a really flexible system. So that's what that is. And then extras is any extra features that character may have. So these are all going to be Mook, the Mook archetype, because they're not... security maybe not, actually. Security could be a professional. But certainly the youth and the organizers and the socialites will be Mooks. I immediately type Mook. What an idiot. This is because there'll be more of those 3 things than security, so it doesn't really matter. So disadvantaged youth, looking at the template. There we go. They have a primary pool of 5, which I'm just going to copy paste into the others. Give me a second. Again, I hope everyone's following along with this well enough. Please do feel free to ask questions about this or anything else related to GMing, I guess. A primary pool of 5, a secondary pool of 4. So there's 5 dice to roll, 4 dice to roll, and 2 dice to roll. Giving you a bit of a spoiler about what's coming next with this truly, truly fascinating stream of me typing into a document. And then that desperation pool of 2. The only reason I'm copy pasting is because it's just quicker. Although it probably isn't in the long run. I don't know. Who knows? I was just wondering if it's worth making a template for each archetype. I'll probably do that off stream. And then health is 1. Defense is 1. Initiative is 3. Again, health 1. Defense 1. Initiative 3. So they can take 1 hit. They roll 1 die to defend, etc., etc. And that's it. I'll just add in these while I'm here, I suppose. Primary for a professional is 7. Secondary for a professional is 5. And desperation for a professional is 3. So you can see that they're slightly better. You're intended to have fewer professionals than you would have mooks. Health of 2, defense of 2, initiative of 5, and extras. A cut above, which is plus 1E. So that's 1 enhancement to XXX. So I'll get around to sorting out what that enhancement is for later. So here we go. So I guess the drive of disadvantaged youth is to have opportunities, to make opportunities. There we go. The drive would be to better the lives of others, to protect something / someone, to meet more people. So, primary pool of disadvantaged youth. What would they be most good at? Probably something to do with streetwise. Getting around. This is also something that it's not a skill and attribute pool. It's a one-word phrase, a one-word thing. So combat or intimidation. I guess surviving. Let's give them two things that let's give them all two things that they're good at for a primary pool. Surviving and I don't want to lean into stereotypes is the problem I'm encountering right now. A desperation pool, I guess they wouldn't actually, doesn't need that colon because there's no things to put there. I guess knowing the right people. And then secondary pool, I guess being aware of things. And reading people. Like knowing who might pick a fight, who is going to help you if you need it, etc. I like giving them extras. I do. Just to give flavor to everything. So an extra could be any additional trait. So you can see with the security guard, because they're a professional, they get a cut above, so they get one enhancement. So one extra success on any successful roll, two something. Probably be observation. Let's face it. I think this could be ear to the ground. -1 complication to find common items. So whether that's just knowing the best place to buy it or knowing someone who already has it, that kind of thing. Kind of a streetwise level of oh, I know someone who has this, probably be able to borrow it. Does that work for everyone? Are you all understanding where I'm going with all of this? I don't really know how much of this I could put in as design notes, particularly. With the scene designs, I'm 100% going to do that where I can. I don't know how much that will translate over to story guide characters, per se. But I guess I could try. They did in the book, so I'll certainly try something anyway. The primary pool. Organization. And also contacts. Secondary pool. I guess something that organizers and committees also good at, but not terribly good at. I guess they generally tend to focus on high level stuff and then delegate, so I'll put area of expertise and then in brackets charitable raising. And also I for numbers. Head for numbers even. There we go. Desperation pool again. Blank. Extras. Well connected. I just want to check something on the character sheet. Yep. Always has a contact for any formal event. And also an advantage of doing this, of building these stat blocks, is it means that if you need a stat block for a guide or a mentor or person on the street, then they're already here. Security, primary pool would obviously be observation and combat. Secondary pool, let's say diffusing tense situations. I really need to... Okay, I've been capitalizing everything, so diffusing tense situations and disciplined. Desperation pool again. You don't have. I think a cut above hit would be just one enhancement to anything requiring that observation roll. They gain an enhancement on. And then socialites. Drive to meet more people. Primary. Whoops, that was almost a rude word. That was a rude word, but it was almost permanently a rude word. Okay, so primary pool for a socialite would probably be I know someone. And typos, FTW indeed. They're the bane of my existence. It's also, I've said this before and I'll say it again, but my microphone is in the exact center of my field of view, which blocks off most of my keyboard. So I'm touch typing anyway, which is what I usually do. But talking out loud while typing and knowing that people are watching is quite stressful and does really result in typos. I know someone, and I can get that. There we go. That's the financial side of things. Secondary pool. Pressure brain when you try it. Yeah, it's just practice, dude. Secondary pool. So we've got the networking side. We've got the money side. Maybe the legal side. My lawyer will hear of this. So that could be an intimidation thing or a bureaucracy thing or maybe even a leadership thing. Possibly, maybe not. That is something I put in design notes actually for these is different situations that these pools could apply in. So what you might find is that I change wording occasionally, in the second pass. Sorry, but it's going to happen. It's an inevitable part of writing material. My lawyer will hear of this. And there we go, international traveller. Sure, why not? Let's play on that stereotype slightly. Extras. Oh, let's say that they have the benefit of... What have we got? We've got one enhancement, -1 complication. Always have a contact. Oh, I did. Just deep pockets. can get any uncommon item easily. Obviously, when you're using words like common, uncommon, it's up to the story guide to adjudicate what that would be, but it helps lend that bit of flavor, I feel. So, to recap, so just flick back over to this menu. So, the introductory scenes are intended as a way of helping people kind of get to the heart of their character. Using the pre-gens, obviously I can lean into their concepts and build on that, and create scenarios in which the character would hopefully, thrive or logically be in, narratively appropriately be in, with some story guide characters for people to play as, and some events to give the scene some direction. So, Ash is at a fundraising event held in a library for a community centre. Story guide characters are organisers, socialite, security staff, the actual youth that the centre would benefit, and a handful of events, one tied to each group of story guide characters. So discussion of further events, know more about what the money would be going towards, someone trying to steal something, and the more of a social kind of conflict with a complaint about one of the other attendees, with an associated stat blocks for each story guide character. I just realized I need to put this in there. There we go. So did that work for everyone? Was that at least interesting, hearing me talk through making them? Or would you rather I do this story guide stuff off stream and just focus on writing the scene outlines and whatnot? Okay, cool. Great. That means I have less to do off stream. I guess off stream it's just making design notes. Good. That was the idea. That is why I wanted to do this show. That's why I was happy Onyx-Path let me do it. So, okay. So that's Ash. We've got time to start Hubei. Again, I apologize. I do not speak Chinese. I hope I'm not butchering things too badly. So, Hubei. Concept: cyber anarchist, chosen of Chang'e. I think it's Chang'e. I apologize if it's not. Life isn't easy when you're always traveling as a child, so Globetrotter is the origin path. That's all of these other characters, by the way, apart from Ash, are... I just took the example paths from the book, so that's how you... If you want to, you can totally do that. But it gives you the skills to blend in as an adult, become one of the crowd, do whatever you wish to tear it all down. That's the role path, one of the faceless mass. I did rename these paths, but essentially I just took the ones from the book. And create a new society of like-minded people. That is the organization path, founder of the Moon Collective. Tying in with Chang'e, who is a Chinese moon goddess and trickster deity. So, setting. Possible SGCs include and events. One thing you take from the stream for sure is that properly preparing a game session is quite a lot of work for them. See, this is... There are two ways of looking at it. So everything I'm doing here is because it's going to be for written content. It's going to be for published material. What I would ordinarily do is... it's not even... This is a terrible example. So unfortunately, I don't have an Onyx Path example to use right now because... regrettably, I'm not playing any Onyx Path games right now. For my regular D&D game, however, so we're two years into the campaign, 2.5, be 3 in April, and I did start out doing this amount of prep for everything. I would plot out scenes, I would plot out characters, you name it. If it was preparation related, I'd do it. I quickly learned that was just a huge time sink. all I do now, after 2 years, I plan out story beats. So essentially all I do is this section of the process. I figure out what I want the purpose of a narrative to be. And then I make a flexible idea, a scene that can be anywhere. Usually a lot of my scenes are extremely simple because the complexity comes from getting from point A to point B. And just allowing the players to direct what's happening. It does require a lot of understanding of the game state and what the rules kind of lend themselves towards. So if you're worried about preparation, all I would say is just understand the rules. Obviously, your mileage may vary. Everyone has a different approach. I believe I mentioned this in the first stream, but Matthew Mercer, I read, he puts a lot of time into NPCs. And you could tell if you watch any Critical Role or whatever, you can tell he puts a lot of time and effort into them. I have 2 words per NPC. Well, I have the NPC's name. I have their career occasionally. But if I need an NPC on the fly, it is simply an adjective and their racial descriptor. But yes, if you're planning to create something for other people to use, the level of preparation is incredible. If you're doing it yourself, for NPCs, if you're comfortable doing improv stuff, for NPCs, a core behavior, or alternatively, what they want and how they plan to get it is all you need. So a sentence. For story stuff, starting any campaign, yeah, it's a yes. It's been a yes and a bit of no. The session 0 helps with starting new campaigns because it tells you what your players want. So then you can write that. So then you can create that first scene. A lot of things that, yeah, you have to be very good at improv to be as hands-off as I typically am. So if I were to find players for a show on Onyx Path, and I'm sure they'd be okay with it, because if I did it at this time slot, like, check the pre-roll, there's nothing on at this time of day. I would probably do a short, prep stream beforehand, just to explain how I envision things going. But I know it sounds arrogant, and it comes across as lackadaisical in a way. But it's to cut down on my time and stress, and 2, because I just prefer collaborative storytelling. I will have a seed. So, for example, I'll use one from D&D again. The current plotline that the players are going along is one of the player characters is the Chosen of Palor, but doesn't know it, and just wanted to stop being haunted by a spirit. That was all I was given from the player, because I like working character stories, obviously. I'd like to show you my skills in action and disappoint everyone. So that was everything I was given. I was given that storyline from the player and some locations from their background, from the background they gave me. So I was like, okay, how do we go from having a breakdown in a major urban center to getting this divine spirit to stop haunting you? So we had a meeting with a cleric to learn a bit more about the whole haunting thing. A return to the abbey that they grew up in to learn even more about it. And then a bit of exploration. And then the climax of the whole storyline, which we're having right now, which is a huge boss fight. So that's 4 scenes that we did not do sequentially. Yes, it sounds like a lot of preparation, But those 4 scenes were essentially 2 conversations, exploration, which you can use random tables for, and fight. A lot of the trick to GMing, I've said this before and I'll say it again, is nothing's set in stone until you say it. So until you confirm something, an aspect of a scene, a condition, a tilt in Scion, and a part of the field, it's all in flux. You can do whatever you want with it. So you need those players to get from point A to point B quickly. Sure, point B is just move closer. As long as you're not using an actual real-world map, obviously. If you're using fictional locations, it's a lot easier. But in games like Scion, if you're using real maps, then magic, if you need to. It's there. It exists. Train of thought. But because it is, my scenes do just boil down to conversation where this will be learned, conversation where this will be learned, travel, fight where this will happen, and then this will be learned. It does require a lot of confidence improving, a lot of trusting players to kind of roll with the punches, and no small amount of cheating. I don't mean fudging dice rolls. I mean just listening to what your players are hypothesizing and realizing that nothing that you've created could ever be that good, but they don't need to know that. But really, that's it. Just preparation is a tricky subject because you got to find the right amount to do. Any experienced GM will tell you that they have a comfortable amount of preparation to do. If they've got time, they'll do a bit extra. If they don't, they have a bare minimum that they're happy doing. I'm fortunate enough that because we're playing in my own homebrew world with my own homebrew stuff, even though and I have an incredibly good head for rule systems after playing a few games, that I can just make stuff up on the fly as I need to and then factor it in later. Also, I'm an obsessive note taker. So that definitely cuts down on the amount of preparation that I do. But I know people who do more. The game that I play in, my DM, because it is D&D, I know that she does what I would consider an absurd amount of preparation. She finds pictures for character reference. She finds stat blocks for all the NPCs. She finds soundtracks. Writes out whole scenes of things that we ignore. Most recent one, we were in Chult studying dinosaurs for the Druid, and we left before we had the epic glitch on T-Rex chase scene. Which, I'm quite disappointed that we left and didn't experience that, but that's a pretty specific scene. My approach is more, you write flexible scenes that you can slot in anywhere. So, because it is essentially just, I boil the scene down to its bare minimum. So we'll use this as an example. It would be a short experience, 100%. We'll use this as an example. So the introductory scenes are a bit of a weird case. So the band meet. It's just one scene of the player characters meeting. That doesn't have to be here. It could... I'm not going to mess around with my formatting. But it could be in the middle of the investigation period. A couple of the characters meet up, or they're all investigating independently. Their investigations lead them together. Or it could be the last scene before the finale. They could do the investigation separately, and then they could all meet up, realize that they're doing essentially the same thing, join forces, punch something into the ground, or what have you. It will not be as... Actually, I guess that this is it. This is, if I were to formalize my preparation, this would be it. I have a setting for a scene, I have possible characters in the scene, and I have something to happen in that scene. It wouldn't be suggested events. It would be, this will probably happen based on player actions. But this is essentially my scene outlines, just in a much more rigid, formalized manner. When I go to writing the actual thing, it will be in more detail, obviously, because this is, you can't write an entire chronicle like this. The scene takes place in this place and has these possible clues, and this thing might happen. That's not great. That's more of a... I do this kind of thing on my website where I call it encounters for the back pocket, because they're just simple things you can slide into a campaign for something different. That's all that would be. That would just be a collection of that. That wouldn't make for a satisfying product. For this, it's fine, because this is just an introductory scene. It's to introduce the characters, to introduce who they are. Yeah. I hope that sort of answered the question, or answered the comment on promotion. I hope that sort of answered the statement about preparation. And obviously, I know it comes across as arrogant, and I really don't want it to. I try not to be an arrogant person. This is what I've been doing. I've been running professional events for nearly a year now. I've been role-playing for 9. Been 9 years this month. I'm just wrapping up now anyway. So thank you for being here. But I don't want it to be arrogant. But I know it sounds that way. And obviously it comes across slightly that way because I have this platform and I'm here. I could cover the webcam and be the voice of God for everyone. Not really an influencer per se, but kind of it's that level of thing. Like, you're here presumably listening to me, absorbing what I'm saying, and whether or not it consciously impacts your preparation, it may or may not, who knows. But unfortunately, Black Plague, I'm just about to wrap up. What was I saying? I don't want it to come across as arrogant. I want it to come across as experienced. This is something that works for me, might not work for you, or it might work for you in the future. Who knows? But that's the whole point of this show, is to show you how I do it, and to show you how you could do it, or to discuss how you could adapt my approach for your own games. This is all I've got going for me. This is the only thing I'm confident about, and it's not... I'm confident about the writing. I'm not confident about the running of games or player interaction. I always ask my players constantly if they're having fun. But I'm confident in my understanding of scene set of preparation because I basically don't do any. But thank you for the support. Anyway, so that's all I have time for today. I do have to get ready to go out. I think I'm already going to be late for a meeting with a friend. This show is bi-weekly, so unfortunately you've got to wait 2 weeks for the next one. Next one will be the 29th. We'll get onto Who By. If they're coming back, they're enjoying themselves. Hopefully. Next stream we'll get onto Who By and Isabel King, Liam McMahon. Maybe I'll just do 4. Who knows? I'll try and type up my show notes, my design notes before then. Probably do that tomorrow. So I've got that formalized. Got that ticking away. Next stream, obviously, we'll continue making SGCs for each introductory scene, which should then give us a nice mix of, well, it'll be 24 people on the street, blocks, so that should be fine. Oh, no, thank you for watching. Please do follow the channel if you've got the money to. Consider subbing, or if you've got Twitch Prime, that's a free sub a month. You do have to manually redo that, though. We do have the Deviant Kickstarter, as the Silicon Path just reminded you. If you want to see more about that, there are some VODs on the Twitch channel with character creation and gameplay. I think that's it. Oh, right, Comrade Bubbles. That's me. If you have any lingering questions, I can always be reached on Twitter at Comrade Bubbles. I do have my own channel. Ordinarily, I would stream after this stream from my channel to wind down, but I do have to go out and meet a friend, as I said, and I'm going to be late as it is, so I probably shouldn't do that right now. It is the same. It is Comrade Bubbles. Drop a follow. And I don't expect you to sub based entirely off this conversation here, but any further questions about role-playing, I'm happy to answer when I'm just doing gameplay streams. I play many games. I also have a Discord. Also, speaking of Discord, there is an official Onyx Path Discord. The link to which is in the chat right now from Nightbot. No worries. Thank you for being here, as I said. The Discord, I believe, doesn't have a voice channel for most new users. I don't know how that works. I don't know if it's a permissions thing or a time period thing, but all of us showrunners are on there. If you need to get in touch with us or to ask any questions or to just talk about Onyx Path goodness, it's all good. It's all good. I think that's it, though. Mental checklist. Promote myself, promote the Onyx Path, promote Onyx Path more. The Kickstarter. I think that's it. I have a drink. I have water. I drink the hard stuff. Yeah, I'm going to kick it back over to the, I guess, post-roll in this instance. But thank you for being here. Do appreciate it. The post-roll has all the information about the other shows we have. But thank you for being here. Hope you come back and have a good one.